Hi guys, it's TechBoy here with another video. This video is my top 5 predictions for the next version of OS 10, which will be the 10th version. And the question is it still going to remain OS 10? And what's going to make it drastically different from Mavericks? So before I get into this video, I want to do a quick disclaimer just like the previous video. This video was also made mid-April 2014, so over the Easter break. I now own a Retina display MacBook Pro 15-inch from late October 2013. Not the base model, but the one after that. And I've owned it for just over a month, and it marks the first time I've been a full-time Mac user. And just as of a few days ago, I've transitioned all of my stuff across from my Windows PC, which was a Toshiba, across to the Mac. Not that there was anything wrong with the Toshiba laptop. I got one for university study for iOS programming, hence Xcode, and if it wasn't for that, then I'd probably still be using a Windows machine to this day. So this video is purely based on my experiences of using OS 10 Mavericks since I got the MacBook Pro Retina, and I'm ranking what I want to see in the next version of OS 10 based on what I want to see, how likely it will happen, and what we as users want based on what I've read on the internet. So let's get straight into it. Number 5 is the minor changes, because I've struggled to make a top 5 list of solid points of what I want to see in the next version, because normally there's 10 changes in every version of OS 10 for the past numerous years. But I struggle to think of that many changes that they could possibly do, so that's the reason I did a top 5, and number 5 is minor changes. So I want to see a more stable and reliable mail application, because I initially set it up and then it was incredibly buggy and it would crash half the time, and I just gave up using it and instead used the web browser, because I'm not a fan of Yahoo's new interface as of quite a few months back. But this was one of the ways I was hoping to transition across, but I didn't want to have to purchase a separate mail client application on the Mac in order to use this, so hopefully they'll fix that. iTunes 12, if they can think of any good changes to put in it. Allow the ability to sort files in folders, so folders can appear first at the top of each screen in the Finder view, and then show the documents. So like, you can rearrange them in any order you want, or at least sort them alphabetically, but have the folders before the files, because I'm used to that from Windows. Support the ability for read and write into NTFS drives, so external hard drives, so this could increase the number of Windows users to transition across from the perspective of they have NTFS external hard drives, and they'll be able to transition stuff across in that, and they can back up stuff from the Mac onto the NTFS drive, of which is an external drive, without having to reformat and lose all the data on that external drive. Thankfully, I formatted my backup hard drive to FAT32 prior to using it in the first place, and thankfully this didn't happen to me, but I'm hoping they fix it for other users. Support third-party mouses for panning around the screen, so when you press the middle button on your third-party mouse, like I use a basic Logitech one at the moment, it should have the little circle like on Windows 7 and 8, and then you can drag the mouse in any direction you want, and that's the direction the screen will pan and move towards. Support resolutions include Ultra HD, which is that resolution there, in time for the new Thunderbolt displays, and Ultra HD iMac, if there's one in the works, that is. I don't know if there is. I haven't really read rumours on that much recently. The ability to open the downloads folder without the pop-up window from the dock icon, because that's how I expect it to happen every time, and I just get a little annoyed with that little pop-up screen. I mean, it's useful and elegant, I get the whole point of it, but I just wish they would add that little minor functionality for the people that do prefer that. A big thing I want to see is the ability to toggle natural motion on and off for both the trackpad and the wireless mouses separately. So I can have a natural motion for the trackpad, so it's just naturally like it would be on iOS, And for scrolling on the wireless mouse, my Logitech basic mouse, I would have it off, so it's just scrolling like how I would normally use it on a Windows machine. And separating the iTunes radio from the iTunes desktop application, because it could put it more front and center. People will probably be more inclined to keep it on their dock, more likely to use it, so that if there's more streaming, there'll be more revenue. It could all make sense. Likewise, doing it for iOS. So, number 4, we have AirDrop via Mac and iOS. And to tell you the truth, I was expecting this to all happen out of the box, but apparently this functionality doesn't exist. I just hope that they can have the same functionality and user interface that the AirDrop for Mac and iOS currently have. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just wish that they would allow the ability to share files, even if it's just restricted ones like for calendars, contacts and notes, across Apple branded computers. And when I say computers, I'm talking about smartphones, tablets, laptops and desktops. So across that whole ecosystem, you should be able to share the files between your Mac and your iOS devices, but this hasn't come in. So keep it the same, just add the functionality to work cross-platform in the same ecosystem, which is Apple. Number 3 is written for the A8 processor, because there's been a lot of rumours going around at the moment that the MacBook Air with Retina display will come with an A8 processor in it. And if you don't know what the A8 processor is, or what it's going to be, it's just going to be the next iteration of the CPU and GPU and that for the iPhone 6 and the iPad Air 2 and the next version of the iPad mini. It will be the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that OS X will be written for a completely different architecture since they moved to Intel, because I can't recall who they were with originally. I think it was like AMD or something like that. If I know for sure, I'll let you know in the comment section below. But they transitioned across with OS X Tiger to Intel, and Steve Jobs made the joke of they spent the last 6 months to make this, what it looks like on OS X, to look like this, the same, on an Intel-based processor. The A7 is known for having a 64-bit desktop class architecture, and I think the key word in that is desktop. So when you think of desktop, you think of a desktop operating system, and when you think of desktop operating system and Apple, you think OS X. So what does OS X run on? Well, it runs on the iMac, it runs on the MacBook Pro, runs on the Mac Mini, which they still need to update, and even the MacBook Air. So it all makes too much sense. And the A8 processor may surpass Intel's power-efficient Core i5 processors in performance. So it would be ideal for a thin and light device like the MacBook Air, but probably just have it at higher clock speed to make it more powerful, because there's more pixels than there probably would be on a Retina iPad Air. And this is all providing that they do announce an A8 processor for the MacBook Air with Retina display. If they don't, then this is basically debunked. Number 2, and one I really hoped that they were going to add in Mavericks and they didn't, was, and some people may think it's stupid, is Siri. Because it would be incredibly useful, because currently I get my phone out to ask Siri for things like the definition of a word to save loaded it up on a web page or something like that. And it's little things like that that make Siri useful, but I wouldn't use it in public or anything, nor would I use it in public on a blessed laptop, but it's not by all means useless. It's still a usable functionality, but they need to provide more updates to Siri alone. But I'm talking from the perspective of they need to just add Siri to OS X. And along with that, they should have offline Siri, so you don't need an internet connection. Same with voice dictation, activated by pressing the function key in the bottom left corner on the keyboard, or at least I do on my MacBook Pro Retina, twice, like you do to activate voice dictation. auto-rating so you can do voice to text and all that, but it would work when you don't have a text field selected to do the voice to text import into. Incorporate all the features that iOS 7 or even iOS 8's version of Siri has, if there is a better version of Siri in iOS 8, and the ability to choose your web search engine provider instead of being the default, because I'm just sick of Bing's results. I personally prefer Google, and Google's just still on top for web search. You've got to give them credit for that. And number one, the biggest, most talked about feature, or look, should I hint at, that's going to come to OS 10 in the next version is how I'd like to call it the half-flat transition, and all I say is bring it on. I don't mind if it is completely flat like iOS 7, or if it's halfway towards looking like iOS 7, like halfway between OS 10 Mavericks and iOS 7 or iOS 8. And they'll probably just have changes like the dock has no bar, but it has like a transparent coloured rectangle behind all the dock icons, so like the image in the bottom right. OS 10 applications that are also in iOS 7 should have an iOS 7.8 look, both the user interface of the actual program application itself and app icons, and are just in iOS 8 for consistency on the mobile operating system, that is. Transparency look for notification center, so by doing that it should come over the top of what is currently on the desktop screen, instead of pushing the whole desktop screen to the left to then push in the notification center. It should just slide in on top. And the ability to download a software add-on for those users who prefer the gradient look and feel like OS 10 Mavericks has, but they want the functionality that the next version of OS 10 is going to be having. I don't know what they're going to call the next version of OS 10, but it's going to be a place in California, so, and nor do I live in America, so my geography is not very good for American locations and stuff like that, apart from me knowing like the major cities and stuff like that, but hopefully it has a good name. So that's it, thank you very much for watching. The question for you, the audience, is do you want an iOS 7 inspired desktop version of which is OS 10? So you can let me know by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and if you choose to, subscribe to my channel. Also follow me on Google+, and if you want me to create a Twitter account, by all means, let me know below, and I'll look into developing and creating an account and letting you all know about it when I get around to it, and if there's enough demand. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know when my next video is going to be, but I hope to at least do a flashback video on WWDC 2014 when the time comes, because I've got exams coming up shortly after that, but hopefully I'll have time to at least do that for you, the subscribers, and my general audience. And that's been it. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later.